Here is a clip taken from the 2570 AVA outside. In this clip, we are going to demonstrate this camera's 2.8 to 12 millimeter lens. Right now the camera is at its 2.8 millimeter mark. And here is the camera at its 12 millimeter mark. Here is another video sample taken from the 2570 AVA inside a warehouse in complete darkness. The 2570 AVA is an indoor and outdoor rated vandal-proof dome-style camera. This camera has a 700 TV line resolution Sony CCD and a 2.8 to 12 millimeter varifocal lens. This camera also has 30 infrared LEDs that provide 80 feet of night vision in complete darkness. The housing for this camera has an IP66 weatherproof rating, which means this camera is certified for use year-round. With every purchase of this camera, you will receive a mounting bracket, a bag of accessories for the mounting bracket, a user manual, a cushioning pad for mounting the camera to the bracket, a bag of accessories for the camera, and of course, the camera. If you are interested in learning how to assemble and use this camera, keep watching. The first step in setting up your 2570 AVA is to take your insulation pad and adhere it to the bottom of your camera. While you're doing this, you want to make sure that the 3 holes in the pad line up with the 3 holes on the bottom of the camera. The easiest way to do this is to line up the notch on the pad with the notch on the camera. To adhere the pad, simply remove the yellow back by peeling it off. And stick it to the back of the camera, again lining up the notch on the top. The second step is to remove the 3 Allen bolts around the dome shield on the camera. We can do this by taking the Allen wrench provided inside the accessory bag with the camera, and loosening all 3 bolts. I'm going to go ahead and loosen these, and as soon as I'm done, I will be right back. Once we have loosened all 3 bolts, we will be able to remove the dome shield. The third step in the setup process is to take the wall bracket and flip it on its back. Take the cable from the camera and run it through the wall bracket. The fourth step is to take a small object like a pen or a small flathead screwdriver and poke out the foam from the insulating pad on all 3 holes. Then go ahead and take the camera and place it onto the bracket while pulling the cable through at the same time. Once you have it close, go ahead and look down the mounting holes on the bottom of the camera and line them up with those on the bracket. Once you have all 3 holes lined up, go ahead and take your machine screws out of your bracket bag. And these machine screws are separate from the other ones because they have flat tips. And one by one, you're going to drop them into the holes. And using a Phillips head screwdriver, go ahead and just twist them on. Don't tighten them until you get each one of the screws in. So we'll just get that in there. Go ahead and drop the second one in. And then the third. Once you have all 3 screws in place, then you can go ahead and tighten them. And in this step, you do want to tighten them as much as possible because this is what's creating your weather seal and making the camera more weatherproof. If you don't need to adjust your zoom and focus at this point, you can go ahead and take your dome shield, put it back on, and fasten that back on. But for those of you who need to adjust the zoom and focus, keep watching. There are 2 knobs on the lens for adjusting the zoom and focus. This bottom adjustment knob is the zoom, and the top one is the focus. Before you can adjust either of these, you have to loosen them first. You can do this by using a small flathead screwdriver. Give it about 2 full turns, and then you can simply move it left or right for the bottom one to zoom in and out, and the top one to focus. Adjusting the bracket that holds the lens is relatively simple. You have 3 different motions. You can swivel the lens, you can swivel the entire bracket, and you can move the camera lens up and down. And you can make all of these motions by simply pressing on the camera to move in that direction. One final note before we go ahead and close up the camera. I want to mention that this camera has a 360-degree turning radius, but this is not continuous. This bracket can move 180 degrees in one direction and then 180 degrees in the opposite direction. Overturning this bracket will result in pulling these wires attaching the cable to the lens and the CCD. These kinds of faults are not covered under warranty, so make sure that when you are adjusting this center bracket that holds the lens, that you don't overturn the centerpiece. Once you have finished assembling, adjusting, and setting your zoom and focus, you can go ahead and put the dome shield back on. To do this, simply line up the holes. And one by one, go ahead and put your Allen bolts back in. And tighten them. After you are done tightening all 3 bolts, it's a good idea to give each bolt another 1/4 to a 1/2 turn. This will ensure that the rubber seal that makes the dome shield weatherproof to the camera is securely tightened.